What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Solomon's Porch podcast review. We are joined today by a good friend of mine. I've interviewed him before on Business with Bordeaux, Mr. Derrick Myers from the OTS guys. Is that what you call the OTS
Yes, sir.
guys?
It's OTS stands for on the sidelines,
Okay,
but
on the
I just have
sidelines.
OTS guys because I couldn't even just get uh OTS or just
Okay,
on the sidelines because it wasn't available, but it worked.
gotcha. And
Yeah.
again, with my co-host Shawn, and we are going to be doing the Justice League Snyder Cut review. So we're not going to take 4 hours to discuss this 4 hour film. Very long
Oh,
film.
although we probably could.
We could. I guarantee you we
Yeah.
could. So what I would like to do at first is go ahead and just give our initial reaction. That way, if nobody wants to see past that, they can just see whether we liked it or not, and then just move on with their day. We'll do them a
Yeah.
favor in that way. Derrick, what was your initial reaction? Maybe under a minute.
Ooh, I thought this was beautiful. It's night and day versus the theatrical version. I don't understand why WB blackballed Zack Snyder like that. They need to go ahead and give him the keys to the DCEU. I think this is a perfect launch pad to or a perfect foundation to rebuild the DCEU.
Gotcha. Shawn, your initial reaction?
I 100% agree. I was blown away. This is not the same movie. This is a. I mean the general premises are the same. You still have Batman that's bringing the superheroes together, bringing Superman back to life, battling the bad guy. After that, totally different film, totally different feel. I mean, Zack Snyder is just pure genius. I think it also goes to show that we haven't really fully gotten exactly what Zach's that evidently WB has been really strangleholding this guy because this movie just rocks. It just blows your mind.
Yeah, man, I agree. When I first watched it, I was thinking, man, I really wish I could have seen this in theater. I would have loved to have seen this in theater, but I know
Yeah.
that's not really possible 4 hours. I thought it was great. I thought that the action scenes were much better. I
Oh, most
thought
definitely.
that the way that they gave the other characters that were shortchanged in the initial theatrical release, they got a lot more story and build up, which was great, especially Cyborg, more specifically, and even Flash a little bit more. And I thought it was well rounded, and I even really enjoyed the extra little piece at the end, which we'll discuss. I did and didn't like the ending for a reason, but we'll dive into that in just a minute. So real quick, that's our kind of initial reactions. I guess we all really enjoyed it. So if you don't know, the theatrical release was it actually started with Zack Snyder. He started the filming process, and there was I think two primary reasons why he stepped away from the project. One, initially was told that Zack and WB just had creative differences. That he wanted a much darker tone film. WB didn't want that. And but then we also know that his daughter had unfortunately committed suicide. So he was dealing and struggling with that loss in that time of his life, which is another reason. And that reason alone would have been enough for him to step back. And
Oh yeah.
so, that's why at the very end of the film, by the way, this will be a spoiler review. This will be a spoiler review, just for anybody out
Oh
there
yeah.
watching. So, but at the very end of it, it does say, it is dedicated to his daughter, which was very classy. So, what were some of the positive changes that you saw? Like, what were some of the best positive changes? Derrick, we'll start with you.
The aspect ratio. I
Yeah.
mean, that was just I now want to see films done just like that. I mean, there was so much beauty in the picture and the resolution that you got to see more depth with just even just the colors. Like For example, the way that Aquaman's suit was in the original was, it seemed kind of flat to me, but his suit looks much better in this film. Steppenwolf was another one. He benefited from this change.
Yeah,
Not even just a change with the aspect ratio, but the change to the story itself. Because in the theatrical release, he just kind of like showed up and he was just there. I had no understanding of who he was, what his reason. I didn't know anything about him. He's just there, wreaking havoc. This makes much more sense. I purposely did not watch the theatrical release before I watched this because I watched it the first time. That was it. I will never watch that again, ever. This was exactly what I needed because it makes more sense.
yeah, yeah. Sean, what were some of the good positive changes? I know you got a list of notes there.
I do. Yeah, I do. The 4:3 aspect ratio was really pretty cool. It's nice throwback for us that grew up on televisions that were more
Mhm.
square. Um, but yeah, I think it added that level of creativity and artistic you know vision that he sees everything in. That my biggest pet peeve when you're talking about superhero films and you're talking about having more than like two in a film, Avengers. Um, there's just no development. It's just such a shallow film. The
Mhm.
plot doesn't get fleshed out very well. Things are sacrificed. It moves way too fast. I would say like Hawkeye is probably one of the prime examples out of the Avengers films.
Yes.
He's always the sideline character. He's just that guy that's, oh yeah, he's over there on the building shooting bad guys, whatever. He has a small line about encouraging somebody to join the group and awesome, and that's it. That's all you really get of him, right? And until of
Mhm.
course later on, you get his house, but that's a totally separate movie. But the point is, Zach was able to take the time here to be able to really give us a lot more Flash, a lot more Wonder Woman, and a lot more Aquaman. Now, the thing is that he already did Superman, so we have all this background. And what? There's somebody out there that doesn't know the background of Batman. I mean, come on. If you don't, then I don't know what to tell you. Pick up a comic book. But to have Barry Allen and having that um, extra scene in there where he's at the like doggy daycare and saving his potential future love.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was great. I know that some folks were like, oh well, hey, we didn't need the song for Aquaman. It was just like trivial, blah blah blah, waste of time. But you know what? I think it helped create the mythology that
Mhm.
surrounds these characters. That, frankly, if you're a fan of the comic books, that's part of what appealed to you about the comic books was this sort of mythological aspect to these characters that never really kind of came out when we're talking about the Justice League, okay? When we're talking
Mhm.
about buddy team movies, because obviously in Wonder Woman we got it fleshed out. Um, it's so to me to be able to have that time and to be able to flesh out my characters here to give me a much deeper, richer palette of what's going on, what he's working with, the story that he's trying to tell was absolute by far and large the best part of it all. There were some nice cleanup things. There's no more, Steppenwolf talking about mother,
Yeah,
mother, mother. Oh my gosh, that was so annoying. You know, that was probably one of my biggest things is that I hated that Steppenwolf was the main baddie in the film, and I
Yeah.
understand that maybe it was to help be able to create another movie, whatever, yada yada, and not trying to diss Joss Whedon because Joss does what Joss does, and he does that MCU classic. We're moving quickly, we're getting the story out there, we're bang bang bang, and it's done, and I get that.
Mhm.
But what DC really needs is to be able to stand apart from the MCU, to be able to really regain control of
Yep.
their niche of the market. Really, if we think about the comics, one of the things that's largely appealing about their comic books are their darker comic books. The
Hmm.
Dark Knight series. What? The whole Black series is extremely popular. Why? Because it's dark. Okay,
Yeah.
this is where Zach is able to really be able to pull that together, create something new, changes in the music, as to when Wonder Woman's music comes in, that sort of stuff. Phenomenal changes. They were small, subtle things, but it added all up to being able to make something that just totally transcended the cookie cutter junk that we got the
Yeah.
first time around.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if you let them out on purpose, but Cyborg, I really enjoyed his additional storyline. Uh,
Yes.
Seeing his relationship with his father a little more fleshed out, even with his mom. We actually got to see all of the scenes that the theatrical trailer showed us that we never saw. That's one
Yeah.
thing that I was really excited about. Was I was like, we could actually see the half of the trailer stuff we didn't see in the theatrical cut, which would that
Hmm.
upset me whenever they released that first one. Was like, where was that Alfred scene when he said, he said you'd come, all the cyborg stuff. There were so many
Hmm.
scenes from that, and then a lot of extra like behind the scenes stuff that we didn't see in the theatrical cut, like the black suit, like the Irish West, all that stuff that leaked that I was able to finally see in this film. The
Hmm.
black suit on Superman was probably one of my favorite things.
That
Uh,
was
I'm
amazing.
I'm a black and white guy. I just am. Most of what I wear is black. My background, I'll wear a black shirt with a black background, even though I know that's terrible for video, but I do it just because that's the way I am.
Yeah.
I the we got that really cool trio scene that didn't work out too well in the theatrical cut that I really really enjoyed. I enjoyed the well. I'll tag it on as a good thing, but then tag it on as a bad thing later. I enjoyed the Batman Joker dialogue at the very end. It was a
Yes.
little more adultish than what I thought it was going to be, but it's a DC film and they are geared toward adults. DC comics are not for kids. So
Yes.
therefore, the movies are not necessarily geared for children to watch. Um, and then I also really love the dark side character, bringing him in, showing the it was just it looked really good. It looked really
Hmm.
good, and hearing all of the things that Joss Whedon or not Joss, Lord, that Zack Snyder said that all of the things that he wanted to do that he was building up. That's the other thing too was we got
Hmm.
Batman versus Superman payoffs, like the
Yes.
scene with the Flash, the apocalyptic Earth scene, all that stuff. We got to see more of that in this, and so now if you go back and watch Batman versus Superman, it makes a little
Hmm.
more sense. You're like, oh, okay, now I understand
I
where they
actually
were,
did
where
that
he was
last night.
trying to lead. And I will
Yeah.
say this: the Batman versus Superman. I think there were so many things in that were foreshadowing that people didn't understand that they
Hmm.
didn't like that. And so I get it. I understand that. But I think as far as his big bad characters with Steppenwolf, the changes with that and Darkseid, I think that's a huge step up from what he did to Doomsday and Batman versus Superman. And so I applaud him on making that change. The I can't remember what they're called. His Darkseid's laser beam. What are they called? I can't remember what they're called. But whenever they showed that scene of him in Atlantis and he was,
Hmm.
killing folks and he did that zip, whatever he does with those things, that was
Yeah.
really cool. And uh, and then I like seeing Martian Manhunter. I thought that
Yeah.
was really good, but I'm gonna have to wait until we go into the negatives to kind of share my full thoughts on the ending situation. So those are my things that I really enjoyed.
I also liked being able to get an understanding of the parademons. We
Yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get that understanding with the theatrical release or even with Batman versus Superman. because I actually went back last night and watched the Ultimate Edition for that one, and yeah, like you just said, everything makes more sense now.
Yeah, and
Wait,
that's okay, but I think a lot of people had an issue with not understanding those Batman versus Superman stuff. Go ahead, Sean.
Hmm.
I was just going to say, and when you're talking about the Ultimate Edition, there's a lot of additional content there that
Hmm.
I think, again, it just goes to show you that there's so much more that if WB would just get out of the way and let Zach do what he's going to do, that, the stories are going to come together a lot better and really work.
Yeah, yeah. I will say
Definitely.
again, I really love that he was able to flesh out everything he wanted to do in this 4 hour cut. I think one of the exciting things is, and I did hear this from another reviewer, which made me really even more excited, is because this movie has done so well. It has gotten so many streams and so many positive reviews and all these things. Now, one, I'm really praying that we get what we're told we're not getting, which is a following sequel in a third part. There's no plans to do that right now, and I really hope that changes.
I think by the end of
I
the
really,
weekend there should be.
I really hope that changes. But
Yeah.
it lets filmmakers it gives more freedom to filmmakers to do what they want to do in the time that they want to do it in.
Right.
This film wouldn't have done well in theaters. Well, I mean, one, it wouldn't have been allowed in theaters, but they would have had
Right.
to have cut it in half and do two parts, and that wouldn't have worked as well. This film really does need to be watched somewhat together. Obviously, 4 hours. You need to take break, at least one break, probably to use the bathroom and all that kind of stuff. But
Well, and thankfully the movie's broken up into six parts and an epilogue. So,
yeah,
Hmm.
if you haven't watched the film yet, you know that you can take a break somewhere around, part three or part four.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Any
No,
other
and
really good things that stood out? Sorry,
I'm
Derek. Go
sorry,
ahead.
I didn't hear you.
I said any really good things that stood out.
Um,
Any other good things?
this makes me actually want to see the Flash movie with Cyborg in it.
Hmm.
That like this actually just makes it more compelling that he's supposed to be in that movie because I love Flash. I love seeing his development with this film. I love seeing his personality and all that stuff. But now when I'm starting to think about his standalone movie, if we're gonna see his standalone movie, he needs that counterbalance. He needs Cyborg to be there to be the more serious character that will allow the movie to not feel overbearing. I
Yeah, yeah,
love them together actually. Like that seeing them together makes more sense than just seeing Cyborg alone or just seeing Flash alone. I need to see
I
both of
agree.
them together. WB
Yeah.
needs to just come up off of whatever they're doing. You know what WB is now starting to remind me of? The Dallas Cowboys. Like this is like Jerry Jones stepping in the way of every single thing that's supposed to be done and just undoing what could be like they could actually be a dynasty, right? They're not because Jerry Jones is in a way. If WB would just leave it alone, let
leave it
people
to Derek
do
to
what
make
they're
the
supposed to be
football
doing,
reference.
and let Zack Snyder do what he's supposed to do. If we just allow him to just make this movie and stay out of his way, we'll have a better result. That's the logical thing. I think after seeing the comments and the praise for this edition, if WB does not do that, they are really dumb.
Yeah,
There's no way you can tell me that they come away from this weekend and I am actually happy. I hate that the pandemic happened, right? But this is one of the positives from it
Yeah.
because this actually, if actually fast forwarded what we were actually going to be doing anyway, which was streaming
Yeah. Yeah.
new releases. That's where we were headed anyway. It just kind of, propelled us toward that faster. And I think that this is now the new model for these type of films. I think we're going to see more new releases on HBO Max, Netflix, stuff like that. I think we're going to start seeing that more often, and they're going to have to like maybe remodel how they do that so that the actors get a better cut and stuff like that. But it's doable. This showed
Yeah.
that this is doable.
Yeah.
Well,
Just make it
Martin
happen.
Scorsese did the Irishman release on Netflix,
Yes.
and it was
Yeah.
limited in theaters, but it was, it still worked out.
Yeah.
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 We're going to head that way, and all of these companies are going to do like Netflix, and they're going to make exclusive for their platforms. I don't know how well theaters are going to do from here on out.
I
With
don't
big
either.
screen TVs, surround sound, IMAX may survive because that's a whole different type of experience. But the
Hmm.
traditional theater, being able to get a 72-inch TV for like $300 now,
Yeah.
they have them at
Yeah.
$300. Walmart's got them for three
Okay.
hundred bucks. I don't know
Okay.
how well they are, how good quality they are, but either
Yeah.
way,
Okay.
and most people are watching it from their phones anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people don't even need big screen TVs. Younger
But
people watch everything on their phones.
but you know what? I would say that after having watched the Snyder Cut, I would probably pay a good $20-$25 to go watch this movie in the theater.
I would too.
Just a
I
surround
would too.
sound.
Yeah, yeah. I
It,
mean,
it is
and
the theater is an experience.
it is. It
Yeah.
is.
It
And
is
I
an
haven't been to
experience.
IMAX before. I really want to go, but I've told that IMAX like is a whole different ball game. Uh,
And
Yeah.
and
I
this wouldn't have worked for IMAX because of the aspect ratio.
I
yeah.
thought it was shot like that because of IMAX. I thought
I don't
initially it
think
was.
so.
I don't know. I don't know. Somebody might have been wrong about that. But okay, so we talked about a lot of the things that we liked on this film. We want to do a well-rounded review and also discuss some of the things we might not have liked quite as much. Not everything about this film is perfect. So, Derek, do you have anything that just didn't work for you, man?
You might have to come to me last on this one.
Okay, okay. Shawn, go ahead, man.
Yeah.
All right, so I've always got my fair share of gripes. They dropped into this thing an additional $70 million, and that was all primarily for digital, so CG work,
Hmm.
because Zach had already finished all of his principal photography except for like 4 or 5 minutes worth of it.
Hmm.
So you dropped in another $70 million. Man, that CG ought to just like totally blow my freaking mind. And there were times that it did, and times that it just didn't quite work out as well. So a little bit disappointed in that. Um,
Anything specific that really, because there was one specific scene where I was like, "Ooh, that's not good."
there were a lot of close-ups of Cyborg
Yep,
that didn't
yep.
really work out so good for me. There were just several areas. Um, the um, Wonder Woman with the little girl. You can be anything you want to be. It's like, oh, really? Come on, bro. We get it. We got it. Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I encourage that. Yes. But man, it was so blatant. It was like, oh, check that box off. We got it done. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
and I never understood the part where um, they're fighting the Steppenwolf inside that big tunnel, and Wonder Woman's falling down trying to catch her sword, and Flash is running around, and then comes up and just tips the sword back to her. Well, why? Because all she
Yeah.
does is land.
Yeah,
She doesn't do
yeah.
Yeah.
anything directly afterwards. It's not like she grabs the sword, turns around in midair, and slices the guy. Nothing like that happens. She just grabs the sword and lands. Well,
That's what I
crap!
was
She could have
expecting
just
too.
landed on the ground and picked it up. I mean, come on. What was the point of that?
I do have to
Anyway,
say, I do loved her. I loved her cutting Steppenwolf's head off at the very end. To me, that
Oh
was
yeah.
complete opposite of Wonder Woman 84. And I was like, thank you, Zach.
well, and in talking about that, in talking about that, we'll just sidetrack real quick about that. Patty Jenkins totally screwed Wonder Woman with 1984. I mean,
Oh.
she's flying, she's anti-violent.
Yeah,
I mean, Snyder Cut, she freaking blows the terrorist away.
yeah.
I mean, what?
I guess she
Anyway,
lost her love for peace after 84.
I evidently, and I
Probably.
hope so.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, um, my let me pull back on my negatives here. So, the epilogue, I love it and I hate it, and I think that this is probably going to be on all of our lists.
Yeah.
The epilogue was really good in terms of having an epilogue, in terms of giving us some extra foreshadowing, a little bit extra of what's to come or what could come, but also wrapping up some loose ends as well. Um, Jared Leto. I mean, it's the weakest link. He has been. This Joker looks weak. It still plays a little bit weak. I hate his laugh.
Yeah.
I can't get past that. Yeah. In talking about the epilogue, this probably should have been on my positives. Definitely did love the For Autumn at the end, and then the version of Hallelujah
Yeah.
was just.
Yeah.
If being a father of a daughter, I cried.
Yeah. I can imagine that.
Anyway, those are my negatives.
Yeah, I think for me, the cyborg CG, I can't remember exactly what was going on in that scene, but it was a close up of his face, and it just
Yeah.
looked so fake. It was very bothersome. Even though I did like Steppenwolf better, his face looked really, really, really small for that big old helmet. I would have liked a little bit of a bigger face. I don't know. That just looked kind of weird, and the suit looked a little bit overdone. Like I didn't understand why it would transition and move, and all the metal like did what it did. To me, it felt like he was trying to overcompensate for the Whedon version. I felt like that could have been toned back a tiny bit, but that's not absolutely terrible. The thing that upset me about the epilogue and the Martian Manhunter character, when you're looking at Martian Manhunter, I think it's cool now when you watch Batman vs. Superman and Man of Steel, oh, wow, this is Martian Manhunter. Very clever for Zack Snyder to do that. But if we're not getting additional Justice League stuff, what's the point? Why are you going to give us that? Why are you going to... I mean, that makes no sense to me. The epilogue, I loved it. I thought it was really cool to see that team up, and you see Deathstroke and Mera and Cyborg and Flash with his suit that lets you understand a little bit more Batman versus Superman, that scene with the Flash in there. If you're not going to give us another Justice League, that's a really terrible teaser. Now, they did say that Zack Snyder and Jim Lee are thinking about doing a comic book series to flesh out more of the story. That'd be cool.
Ooh,
That'd be
okay.
cool. So I would definitely buy those comic book. I hope it's Black Label. That'd be awesome because they get a little more raw and rough in the Black Label comics. So I'd be excited to see that. Again, with the Joker, like Shawn said, I'm not a huge fan of Jared Leto as the Joker. I did like this Joker better than the Suicide Squad Joker. But still, it was weak. He wasn't really believable as Joker, and that's just I don't know. I think Heath Ledger just made it impossible for anybody to come in and do a good job.
Yeah, by far. In Zach's defense about leaving things open ended, though, there were interviews where he said, I wanted to leave this like it would be in any comic book. There could be something else that comes along the line, or it's the comic books are just as susceptible to just stopping,
Yeah.
because of whatever publication issues. and so he said he wanted to be able to flesh out his story the way that he had it. If you had the ultimate edition of the first Justice League movie, you already saw the Deathstroke part.
Yeah, yeah.
So that wasn't like big, but you're right. There was a lot of really great big stuff that they can at least go forward on that they teased in the epilogue. And I think that again, WB is going to look at this and they're going to say, "There's no way we can't monopolize on this." And if they do refuse to, then
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're morons.
Amy Adams, the Lois character, they could have just done without her completely in this film. I understand the need for the Superman situation, but aside from that, I could have done this film without her completely.
She's the whole point of the nightmare.
But they didn't flesh that out. Like they left that open.
They did.
No, the nightmare of Lois Lane has something to do with Superman turning evil in the epilogue. That's what that's about.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So they still fleshed it out.
Not really, though. You just know she died, but you don't know how she died. You don't know, how Darkseid turned Superman.
Well, yeah, you do, because that's the point of him doing the boxes and then getting the what's that stupid thing called?
Mother box? And the life equation?
No. The equation.
Yeah, but we don't know who kills her, though. We don't know who killed Lois Lane.
Well,
we don't see that. We just see him holding her.
But that doesn't matter. You don't want to give everything away.
Sure you do.
Yeah.
but at least you know how Superman turns, is what I'm saying.
We know that. I mean, it's very similar to Injustice. Joker kills her, and then except he doesn't get turned by the anti-life equation in that story. He just becomes very powerful, take over everything because there's too much stuff not being taken care of. But either way, Lois Lane to me just was the weak point of the film. There was too many, she was there to mourn Clark Kent. Like for the actual film itself, she was there to mourn him and then to bring him back from being crazy in the head. And that's kind of why she was there. And a lot of that mourning portion with her and Martha, that didn't really work well for me. It just, I don't know. That to me, that didn't. But that's me. I mean, other people might have needed that and like that. I don't know. It just seemed really long. And then the part with her at the end with Martian Manhunter, that was kind of pointless. I didn't really need that either. But that, again, ties into Martian Manhunter. Not really. I didn't want them to introduce him if we're not going to see him later. But, however, even if we get a comic book series, at least that would still give me some satisfaction story-wise. And so I really hope they do that. I'd love films, obviously, but it's cheaper to make comic books. And I think him and Jim Lee have already kind of talked about doing a comic book series. So that's probably the way they're going to go. And I'd be okay with it. I'm a comic book fan, so... yeah, that's kind of my only... 4 hours... they probably could have trimmed it back a little bit in some areas, but overall, I don't think they necessarily needed to. But yeah.
It didn't really feel like 4 hours to me. I know it was, but I literally just sat here and just watched it. I'm like, oh my god, that was
yeah.
That was needed.
It sucks you in, it draws you in, and you're captivated.
Yeah, it was needed. I agree that so when I watched it, the epilogue kind of slightly confused me because I didn't understand where they were going with the Nightmare series. Sequence. But then I realized, okay, this is just Bruce Wayne's, his nightmare. Great way to introduce or to at least show Joker. But when I went back and watched Batman versus Superman, that actually made a lot more sense. That sequence made much more sense to me. I'm intrigued to know the cause is. I mean, I'm intrigued to know how Darkseid, like you said, got a hold of Superman and how this whole thing came about. Because even if you think back to the Batman versus Superman sequence, he has soldiers with the badges, the Superman badge on their shoulders. Like all of that is intriguing to me to know how that came about. So I'm not as confused as I was when I first watched it. I will agree that Jared Leto's Joker left me lacking a little bit. Um, and that's what disappoints me because I actually thought his Joker in Suicide Squad, um, I thought his Joker was actually pretty good. I thought it, and I've gotten into a couple of arguments about this. The only thing that the only thing that I was disappointed by was the tattoos and the grill. That's what I was majorly disappointed by in that. But I looked beyond that probably 5 minutes into seeing him. Um, I wasn't paying attention to that anymore. It was just his portrayal. And I thought his portrayal was pretty good. Um,
Well, that's good. You judged a man by his
this
character, not by the conduct of, or not by his looks. There
right.
you go. That's a very biblical thing to do.
That's really good. I I did feel that he was lacking in this one. I do believe Heath Ledger's portrayal makes it harder for anyone coming behind him to do a great, phenomenal Joker. But Cameron Monaghan actually did a phenomenal Joker in Gotham. I think his
Yeah,
version doesn't
yeah,
get
yeah.
discussed a lot.
That's actually my
But he had
favorite
more time.
Joker.
Well, saying he had more time.
Yeah.
He had like what 2 3 seasons to develop and give us more of a portrayal. Um, so I'm looking forward to seeing if they do come out with another Justice League film, what um Zack Snyder's going to do to develop his Joker because flat one happy about is I don't like a flat Joker. Joker is my favorite villain. He's my favorite villain of all time. So I like the depth to him, but that's probably I think I would say that's probably my own criticism. To be completely honest, is Joker because again that sequence didn't fully make sense to me until Bruce woke up. Um, and actually, when he woke up, I noticed that was actually that was one of the newer scenes that were shot because Ben Affleck looked mad skinny.
Yeah.
Like he he looked too skinny to be reshot. They should have probably used a little bit of CGI on him to bulk him up a little bit because that was not the Bruce Wayne that we saw previously. But I actually, outside of that, I didn't have a lot of complaints about this. I think this was actually the closest thing that I feel that we could have gotten to perfection with a superhero movie in terms of like you said earlier, Sean, with it being an like a all-star cast. That it's hard to develop and be balanced with that many characters that have so many different personalities to actually make it feel like it was worthwhile. I thought they did a phenomenal job with this. That's the only reason why I think that the 4 hours were needed because you don't get that type of feeling with Avengers. You get a great movie with Avengers, but you don't get that feeling, which is like I believe that everyone was developed properly. It moved at a phenomenal pace. Um, I don't know that I have any complaints. I think the only complaint I had was that it ended. I want to see I wanted to see more, but I mean, between that and that the next is not filmed yet or not even, into pre-production, like that's really it. I thought they did a phenomenal job. Seeing Darkseid, first come to Earth and then, get injured. retreat, and even the afterlife or the anti-life equation, like that that's his purpose of coming here, right? So
Right.
is that was needed. That was needed.
Yeah,
We needed
yeah.
to see what everything was about. Um, so outside of like maybe not knowing fully what the issue is between the Atlantans and Amazons, like that's probably another thing I would like to see more in depth.
Yes.
This is the reason why I think 1984 failed completely, because it doesn't give us anything. If you're gonna
Yeah.
go back in time, give us something. That literally gave us nothing. I won't even talk about that one, but it's
Let's don't drag this down by mentioning that film.
yeah,
Let's keep.
yeah. In fact, Zack Snyder needs to go back and reshoot that. and give us 1984
Uh,
Zack Snyder 1984 if you're gonna do that again. If not, allow Zack Snyder to take over for the third one, because I
Well,
want to see more.
he was producer on 1984.
He didn't have any voice.
Evidently. Evidently.
Yeah.
yeah, I will say I'm very looking forward to the New Gods movie they're making now, which Darkseid will be in. That's
Yes.
going to be really interesting to see. I want to see more of his character and just his abilities and stuff, and just show people how much more of a BA that he is than Thanos even was. Uh,
That's what I was
a
thinking.
lot of people think could beat Darkseid hand to hand. There's no way. Without the Infinity Stones, Darkseid's got him all day. And I've even seen
Oh yeah.
comparisons where even with the Infinity Stones, he couldn't beat Darkseid. Even with
He
them.
couldn't do it. Thanos couldn't do
So,
anything against Scarlet Witch.
Right.
voila. Voila.
So
So, anyway, man, that's our review of Justice League Snyder Cut. In short, we all really enjoyed it. We all tip our hats to Zack Snyder. You know, Shawn, I think about how, at the end of Star Wars Episode 9, like, everybody felt like, who did that? Who was it?
JJ.
JJ, that he came back and kind of redeemed the Star Wars from Episode 8. I feel like that's Zack Snyder in this film. He came back and he redeemed the Justice League with this. And
yes.
so, Zack Snyder, hats off to you.
Yep.
WB, go ahead and hire him to do all of your films. I know they hired, I can't remember the production team that's supposed to be doing all the DC films from here on out. Are supposed to oversee them. Was it Bad Robot? I can't remember what that company is.
Probably
Either way,
is, but they need to give Snyder partial ownership of WB as well, because he completely owns them right now.
yeah,
Like this
yeah,
is
Oh
horrible.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Horrible.
yeah. Derek, we appreciate you joining us for this, man. It was good to chop
Thank
it
you
up
for
with you.
having me.
And
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. This was fun.
and everybody, let us know in the comments, what is your favorite part of the film? What is something that you thought needed to be changed, or if anything, give us your thoughts in the comments. And we'll be back with another review of something coming up soon. I know we have the King Kong or Kong versus Godzilla film that's coming out. We have Mortal Kombat in April.
Oh yes.
We have Black Widow, Falcon and Winter Soldier. There are so many things going on right now for nerds and comic book fans and people that just love all these types of things.
Fandom.
Fandom, exactly. So, anyway, we'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you all for checking us out, and God bless.